I'm Rafael Sabelli. I'm with Walter P. Moore. I am the Director of Seismic Design and a Principal in the San Francisco office. I had a varied college career. My interests were physics and sculpture, and that led me to architecture. But my degree is actually in philosophy of art. And I got that with the plan of going to a master's program in architecture. And Berkeley was my choice for master's in architecture. I went there. I'll say I had a natural gift for structural engineering, which meant when I drew a column on the 5th floor, I also drew it on the 4th floor, 3rd floor, 2nd floor, and 1st floor. And that was not something that was necessarily common amongst my fellow students in the architecture department. That course convinced me that I wanted to get a master's in structural engineering as well. And so I applied to do that. I had a faculty recommendation, and I made friends there in the structural engineering department. I made some long-lasting relationships with a couple of professors. And when I graduated, I had the idea that I would want to do both structural engineering and architecture. I got more interested in larger projects and bigger teams, and was comfortable, being a part of a bigger team. So I decided to concentrate on structural engineering. So I got to know more of Walter P. Moore. I took a trip to a couple of offices, Austin and Houston. I came back and I told my wife, well, I don't know if I'm smart enough to work at Walter P. Moore. But she told me, yes, you're probably smart enough. And so I joined, and we've done some very interesting things. And it's been a great, I don't know how many years it's been, probably almost 15 now. I really enjoyed the projects I worked on in steel. I liked the sort of kit of parts approach, where you could look things up and say, hey, I could use one of these, and how can I put things together? So that's been an enjoyable part of working with steel for me. Another part is that you can really use the math, right? Some materials, they're too fuzzy. You can't describe their behavior with very precisely with mathematics, and steel tends to be pretty well behaved. And a couple of times in my career, just a couple of times, I've used differential equations. I've done, I've used more complex analyses, and I like the fact that steel lends itself to that. So I've had a number of proud career moments, and they're of different types. One proud career moment I had just recently, Larry Griffiths and I published a paper together on stability. I've been working for Walter P. Moore for several years, and occasionally talking with Larry about projects, but we hadn't delved deeply into anything until the last couple of years. On the academic side. Going back early in my career, I'd been doing a lot with detailing of braced frames. This was at my first company. It was called DAS Design in San Francisco. And I was putting together both details, gusset plate details, for our braced frames, and also the supporting calculation methods for those details. And the design methods for those connections was really developed in the 90s or even earlier by Bill Thornton, who was chair of the AISC Manuals Committee for many, many years. So I wanted to ask him about some of the interpretations I had been doing of his method. And I wrote him a letter I don't know how old I was, but I'll say I was, some, very young and fairly inexperienced engineer, from the West Coast. And I don't know, a month, 6 weeks later, I got a very nice letter in return. It had some diagrams. It had, I think it was handwritten. I still have it. Handwritten diagrams and a fairly detailed discussion of what I had proposed as an interpretation. And it was, it was helpful for me at the time, but it was also very helpful for me to see what an accomplished, and well-respected engineer, the sort of influence that he could have on younger engineers just by giving a little bit of time and responding when I reached out. One of my interests in the last couple of years has been in developing methods of connection design. I've been working a lot with a friend of mine, Brant Saxey of Core Brace. We've worked on projects together with buckling restrained braces. And as part of that, we've developed some connection design methods that we think are very effective. The buckling restrained braces can be very strong. They can put a lot of force through a very concentrated area. And so making the connection design logical, efficient, and effective, that's been a focus of our work too. Making that connection design effective makes the design of the building all that more effective. If the connection design is inefficient, it can spill over into a lot of extra expense and a lot of inefficiencies in the building performance.